So Neil, you're handling those super expensive shoes again.
Yes, I am.
How much are they again? We need to start with that this time.
It's hard to keep my hands off them. US dollars, I think around 1,500, slightly cheaper for the nylon ones and the low cut ones.
Whoa.
So it comes out at about $2,000 to $2,500 Australian dollars. Not the cheapest thing in the world, but I am going to tell you that these are probably a better upgrade than a set of carbon wheels.
Whoa.
And I'll try and run you through why that is now.
That's a big call.
It is a big call. I think if you've spent $7,000 on a pair of beautiful Princeton Carbon Works wheels or something, you will find this actually to be actually larger bang for your buck than something like that. Wow. So it is expensive for a pair of shoes, but bear in mind they are custom made and they are the most rigid, fantastically fitting shoes that you will ever find, and the power transfer is amazing. So this is an updated version of the LoreOne, which in a previous video, which we might link to up here, you can see that shoe was an initial attempt by the guys who've been creating these in the US to try and produce the shoe with the best power transfer that they could possibly design. That shoe was phenomenal. It was also a little bit bulky and a little bit ugly, shall we say.
The black one.
The black one, yeah. Now, this is a much more refined, updated version. And you can see what they've done here is they've produced a shoe in essentially two parts. It's still 3D scanned, so we take a 3D scan of your feet, and I think we've got some footage of me scanning your feet, which we can splice over here, mate.
Okay.
We take a 3D scan of your foot using a depth sensing camera, and then the guys in the States produce this, and they print the bottom here out of a continuous strand, I believe, of carbon fiber. So all the black bits down here at the bottom, that's all carbon fiber, and it's a bathtub style construction, and it makes the shoe incredibly stiff and rigid, particularly around the heel cup, which is fantastic. The top here, this white section, is made out of TPU. It's the same sort of stuff they print or they make car bumper bars out of. It's a plastic. It's rigid with a little bit of flexibility still built into it. So this shoe has got two closure systems here, which open up, two boas. You open up, you slide your foot in, and on the medial and the lateral side of the dorsum of your foot here, there are thermoplastic, moldable pads, which basically clasp onto the front and side of your ankle and the medial side. Built into this shoe, there is an arch support module, which can be actually moved around inside the shoe. It's going to be super hard to see that, but we'll get some close-ups. You can move the arch module around fore and aft, and then it's just got a shoe liner that goes over. And as you can see, it's got the same kind of idea as the LoreOne. It has a perfectly flat sole plate inside, so there's no toe spring, and I don't even use them with arch support. This is completely unnecessary for most people, I've found, with these shoes, because the stability that you get through the rear part of the shoe is so incredible. So once again, the kind of idea behind this one is that all of the stabilization happens around the ankle joint, around the heel cup and the dorsum, the lateral and the medial pads here, and then the toes are free to roam and do whatever they want. And you don't actually need any type of arch support for anyone that I've come across who's been using them. So this is a really updated, a much nicer looking shoe and a much more sort of user-friendly shoe. It is still the most incredibly rigid shoe that I've ever come across, except for the LoreOne. The LoreOne, you could argue, was very, very slightly stiffer, and the power transfer was very slightly better. This one is just way more user-friendly. So they've refined their fit algorithm. These things are fairly tunable. You can basically, I think what they're going to start doing now is they're shipping these with two different sole plate liners here. One made out of, I think, 1.5 mil neoprene or memory foam, and one made out of 2 mil or 2.5 mil. And so this will basically allow you to tune the vertical height of your foot inside if you are finding it slightly too snug around your toe box or something like that. But in terms of power transfer, all of the same stuff kind of applies as applied with the LoreOne. Because of the rigidity around the dorsum of the shoe, when you're yanking forward on the pedal, particularly when you're out of the saddle sprinting, there is tremendous rigidity, so you can pull forward with much better one-to-one contact than you could with any other shoe. Most shoes, well, every other shoe on the market has a flexible tongue, which as you yank forward on the pedal, the tongue extends and flexes and the upper of the shoe contracts and moves. So you don't get a sort of a one-to-one connection. This shoe you do, and you really, really notice this when you're out of the saddle pulling forward in a sprint, that type of thing. It is fantastic for power transfer. I've done a little bit of sprinting sprint testing with these and found the same kind of numbers as I found with the LoreOne. I had about a 6% improvement in sprint power and about a 6% improvement in my 30-second power for 30-second all-out efforts with that shoe. And these are the same. These are just a much neater solution, you know, much less bulky, bit more aerodynamic, and obviously much nicer to look at. It looks more like a legitimate shoe. So a very, very amazing piece of technology. I highly recommend these if you are a performance cyclist. And I should reiterate, these are good if you've got an odd-shaped foot that can't get into any shoe. But what they're really for is power transfer.
Okay.
Yeah. So they are custom made to suit your particular foot. And you could say, well, I've got a really weird foot with bunions and a big lump there and whatever. That's going to be no issue because they can just print the shoe around your foot. That's no issue. But I have had a few inquiries of people asking me, are these designed for comfort? They are not designed for comfort. They are designed to be the best power transfer shoe, the stiffest shoe on the market ever made. And they are. So whilst they should be comfortable, that is not their primary design prerogative. They are primarily designed for power transfer and efficiency. So with these shoes, because the stack height is so low, I can run my seat about 6 or 7 millimeters lower, which is nice from an aerodynamic perspective. And I just find that the power transfer and the stiffness, for a person who's got hypermobile ankles, the stiffness and the rigidity around the heel cup and the dorsal pads here is just amazing. So yeah, a really, really, really good piece of kit. They come in two different variants. This is a low cut version. So this one's got a slightly lower rise here at the front, and over to my left here, I just go off camera very slightly. This one is a mid-cut, they're calling this one. And this one, as you can see, has a slightly higher tongue system here. It ramps up a little bit more than the other one. So this one theoretically is going to give you a little bit of better kind of connectivity across the top of the stroke when you're yanking forward out of the saddle. I actually find that the low cuts are slightly more kind of comfortable for me, but then again, I am a massive heel dropper, and I think that the dorsiflexion angle that my foot actually gets to at the bottom of the stroke is just leading to the high cuts being a slight irritant across the front of my foot. So if you're a massive heel dropper like me, I'd probably go with the low cuts. But if you've got a bit of a normal pedaling technique like most people, the high cuts are fantastic as well. They come in native speed play or 3-bolt. Doesn't matter, you get to choose, and they are a fantastic bit of kit, mate. And I think a better upgrade than a pair of really fancy carbon wheels.
Well, you notice it below that sort of anaerobic sprint capacity, which is what you've been mostly describing. What about like threshold or your VO2 5-minute effort, or even zone 2, like just pedaling along? Are you going to notice it much there?
Hard to tell.
Okay.
I've been experimenting trying to look at my heart rate wearing the shoes and other shoes, and it's very hard to tell. All I can tell you is that the instantaneous power production in a seated hard effort or an out of the saddle hard effort, the instantaneousness of the transfer of power is amazingly better. So I find it way easier to hold my place in a fast moving surging bunch with these shoes. It's really, really noticeable compared to other shoes, because as you get tailed off a wheel or there's an acceleration in the bunch, the shoe allows you to more instantaneously put the power down. And it is really, for me, that's actually one of my big problems, is I don't have a lot of that short instantaneous burst power available because of my my physical structure. And these shoes hugely improve my ability to operate in a surgy bunch environment, to the point where I literally just don't get dropped as much on the fast bunch rides when I wear these. So I think there's a large performance gain there to be measured, but I'm buggered if I know how to measure it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's much easier to measure the maximal power transfer, the maximal effort, and that's what the guys in the States are seeing. I saw a 6% improvement in sprint power and 30-second all-out effort power, but they have had some clients that they're testing these with in the States that have had like a 12% gain, which is insane, So we've got to get Craig Wiggins onto a pair of these, mate.
Yeah.
Someone with a real sprint to give us some actual hard data that's actually got some more what's
credibility,
the word? More impressive numbers in the sprint. Credibility is a bit of a stretch, but you know what I mean. Yeah, more impressive numbers. So that's my goal. Is we're going to try and get Craig a set, and he has a lot of issues with foot stability and stretching out other shoes, and these are never going to stretch, and they are incredibly rigid. So that's my next project, is to get Craig on a pair of these. So that's the LoreTwo, guys. If you're interested in purchasing a set, there's a few guys with scanners across Australia. I'm one of them here on the Sunshine Coast. There's another one in Sydney. And there might be more at the time of producing this video. And there's a few of them spread through the US and a few spread through Europe as well. So yeah, a really amazing piece of kit. And the guys who make these are really good to deal with. If you have any issues with the fit or anything, they can reprint you dorsal and lateral pads. They can reprint the entire shoe if something's not quite right, and they're really, really committed to getting it just right for you. So yeah, a really fantastic piece of kit, and I think it's a fantastic evolution. It's one of the best innovations I've ever seen in cycling.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it really is.
How much are they paying you to say that? Yeah.
Nothing. Yeah, nothing. I am an agent for these guys, you know. But I think these have more potential than people realise in terms of performance improvement. Yeah. So that's the LoreTwo, and yeah, order yours whenever you've saved up $2,500.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Thanks, Neil.